What's up guys, welcome to another video. My name is Hydro. This is Hydro Speaks His Mind, episode 1. This used to be a series called Hydro Speaks His Mind, which is my actual name. But we're doing the rebranding. We're going now with my artist name, Hydro. So welcome. In this series, I've always just talked about my journey as a filmmaker, musician, photographer, about living in Canada. I've been living in Canada for 20 years. I'm from Colombia, and just about the whole journey, dealing with friendships, anxiety, everything that we go through. Obviously, I gotta bring you up to date with some stuff that was kind of told in the first series or part of this journey. So I guess let's start from the beginning. Welcome. All right, so just a regular kid, born in Cali, Colombia, back in late 80s. Happy-go-lucky kid. When I was 4, we ended up coming to Canada. Went to Edmonton and lived there for like a year and a half when I was 4. Then went back to Colombia because we were waiting for my dad to be able to get his papers to come to Canada, but didn't happen. So we went back to Colombia. He ended up getting like the paperwork, but then him and my mom were like, fuck it, let's just stay here and stay in Colombia. In that year and a half, I learned English for the first time, and so I lost most of my accent, Colombian accent, speaking English, to the point that I remember coming to Colombia and I pretty much forgot Spanish. And then I'm like, Mom, don't talk to me in Spanish, in English, because nobody does here, blah, blah, blah. My mom always tried to keep my English alive, which I'm grateful later in life for that. So, I was into drawing and comics, Dragon Ball Z, music, sports, just kind of like a normal kid. Thinking back now, I guess at the time I never realized if I had any obstacles when it comes to learning or just behavior. My mom thought I was just super hyper, and my mom was pretty strict, and like back in that generation, they yell at you, like hit you a little bit. But my mom was very loving. My dad was also very loving, very passive. My mom's more of like the fighter. My dad is super passive and nice, super nice, but very passive. And around when I was 8, my mom got pregnant when I was 7, and then she had my sister when I was 8, but my parents divorced or separated then. And my life kind of changed in a way, not in a bad way, but I was put on the side, obviously, and my sister was the main attention, which deservedly. But there was some things that happened in between that later in life I realized that might have been some trauma and stuff, but we don't really need to get too deep into that. Oh, I know. So like I said, nothing crazy. I do remember maybe in some social interactions, I noticed that I might be a little curious or not as aware of things or what you should ask, or I don't know. I just remember being yelled at a lot for, oh, don't do that, don't ask that, but never explain why. That's another chapter, another episode. So around, I would say 11, maybe 12, I always liked music. I was more into like Spanish music, so salsa, vallenatos, whatever was kind of culturally popular in the area. I did grow up listening to a lot of English music because of my mom, so like Michael Jackson and like I remember the Beatles as much actually. Some rock. Um, I don't know. There was like a top 40s. It was a good mix of music. But then when I was 12, in this block where I used to live with my cousins, everybody, like I said, I was very into the cultural music, so salsa, whatever was made in Colombia kind of thing. But there was this couple of guys, the outsiders in the block, which were the actual like rockers, metalheads. I didn't know. I didn't even know what that type of music really was. Might have heard glimpses here and there, but not much. And I remember this one day, I come out of the house, and they're outside their house, and they have a speaker like right at the door, kind of blasting music. And I was walking by, I'm like, hey, what's up, guys? And then I just, something about the music kind of like stopped me. I'm like, ooh, what is that? Like, yo, have you heard this? I'm like, no. It's just the guitars, dun, dun, dun. And I'm like, what is this? Then some drums come in, like heavy, and I'm like, whoa. Then some cool stuff with the drums, and then it goes to this one part, like, hey, yo, listen to this. And it goes to, I'm like, yo, what is that? It was one from Metallica, and that's my first time hearing, I guess, not aggressive, but like fast bass drum or that type of drumming. I will say, nowadays we know Lars is not the greatest drummer, but think of this, at that time, when they came out with this music, it was, but to me, this was a catalyst for me to open the world to rock and metal. So after hearing that, I'm like, okay, let me look into drummers, metal, what is this double bass stuff? And they started showing me more music, and then music that was just coming out. It was like 1999, 88, 98 maybe. Limp Bizkit, Korn, Deftones, all that like new metal, alternative. Obviously, I got introduced to, I listened to like Nirvana and other stuff, grungy. I really dived into the rock. Those are the times where downloading MP3s was just coming up, so I would literally spend 8 hours to download one track. 8 hours. Just makes this mix CD and listen to the songs. Then I would bootleg every video that I could on MTV just to study the drummers and sit there. And this, I will make an episode about this, but this is how I pretty much learned to drum. By studying this stuff, listening to it. I had no theory. There was no Google to look up for theory. Of course, I could have looked for books or whatever, but that was too much. My brain doesn't work that way until this day. So all I did was sit there and look at these drummers and try to mimic what they were doing. Try to, oh, when he hits that, it sounds like this. And then try to identify those sounds within a video, within a song. And I'm like, oh my God. And for a good year, for like the first 3 months, I was just sitting there trying to do like a beat with my leg and my hand. No. And I just sat there and banged it out every day. I would just air drum and try to get my independence on this and practice this. Did that for like a year. And fast forward a year later, so I'm literally sitting on my desk in school. So this is like 99, I'm in grade 7, 6 maybe? I don't know. Oh, before this though. So I kept doing the air drumming at the same time. Yeah, it was grade 6 then. I remember our music teacher told us to choose a song to sing in front of everybody. And I chose Freak on a Leash from Korn. And I sang that a cappella. I had my buddy Harlan, and he did, I think, some backup things. But literally, imagine, grade 6, so I'm like 12, 13. And this is Colombia. Everybody speaks only pretty much Spanish. Nobody really listens to that kind of music, and I just come out and I'm like, boom da da dam da Emma, the boom da da dam da Emma, boom Something takes a part of me. Fucking hilarious. People are like, okay, that kid is kind of crazy. But one guy's like, yo, that was cool. And another day he saw me, his name is Sergio, shout out. He's he's sitting beside me. I'm tapping with my pencils on my desk, like I'm drumming. He's like, hey, yo, do you drum? And I'm like, no, man, I wish. I'm like, I just air drum. He's like, yo, I have a drum set. Why don't you come over and like try it out or something? I'm like, really, bro? That's fucking amazing. Yeah, sure. After school, I go over. He has this nice red kit. And he's like, go ahead. So he sits on his couch. He's like, yeah, go on. I'm like trying to figure out, kind of moving some things. And I'm like, okay. And by then, actually, from the air drumming, by that point, I was actually kind of learning, or what I thought I was learning songs. Like, I'm like, yeah, I think I have the basic beat of a song. And I think it was She Loves Me Not from Papa Roach. So keep in mind, sit on the drum set for the first time holding a pair of sticks. Cause even when I was air drumming, I didn't think of like, oh, let me just buy a pair of sticks. Huh, that was stupid. So I just sit there and I go, and I play the song, obviously made some mistakes and whatever, but pretty much played it. And he's like, yo, that was so cool. He's like, how long have you been playing? I'm like, this is my first time. Holding a stick, touching a drum set. He's like, what the fuck? Play something else. I played some other beats. He's like, yo, how the hell? I'm like, I just air drum. He's like, well, I don't really play much. Why don't you take the drum set to your house and practice? I'm like, what? So I took the drum set to my house and I drove my mom crazy. And then she told me to get rid of it, give it back. Then she did put me in classes for like a month or two, but then we couldn't afford it anymore. Had to get out of classes. Anyways, fast forward, I moved to Canada. And the only thing I can afford living in apartments in Canada makes it difficult to have a real drum set. So I ended up just getting an electric kit around 2006. I got to Canada in 2004. And I was living with my ex at that time. She's a music teacher, so music was like a very big part of our life. And I started doing drum covers on YouTube in 2006 on this electric kit. And I posted a few videos and those were blowing up. And I'm like, yo, I gotta buy a drum set. So I ended up buying the Joey Jordison Pearl kit. It's like $2,000, double bass, fucking massive. Can't really play it at the apartment that I am. I have mutes on them and neighbors are like, you can't play this here. I'm like, So I'm like, okay, well, I'll have to sell it. And I took it to my girlfriend's cottage for like a week. Not the whole setup, but just the minimum setup. And I filmed a bunch of videos on a point and shoot that only recorded like 3 minutes at a time. And those were my like first on an acoustic kit videos on YouTube. And those were fucking getting like 100K views. Yo, I was blowing up. And then after I got rid of the drum set, I went back to kind of doing the electric ones, the electric kit. Those weren't as blowing up as much. And I just kind of stopped. So music became like a in and out thing, but then I started playing with some people. So music was always there. Fast forward like 10 years, I leave Home Depot. I joined college for photography. Since I got my first cell phone, I kind of got into photography, and then I got a DSLR, always as a hobby. I ended up going to college for photography. I was trying to get into a band in Toronto, which I did end up getting in after like a couple of years after I auditioned. And so now I'm in college, I'm in a band, we're recording an album. Life is good. But like everything good in life starts, it also has to end. I ended up dropping out of first year of college, went into a really bad depression. I was still in this band, but there was not really any band members. It was like the owner of the band, or the singer, the main guy, and me. And we were just doing drugs and trying to write this album, but then he never finished the album. I stopped doing the drugs. I wanted to get my shit together. I ended up going back to college, finishing my program. By then, I was in a relationship, which this person also brought into the band. And left the band, left the girl, finished school, and started doing my own thing as freelance. And that was 2017, so it's been 7 years of this journey as a photographer, filmmaker, and musician. Just been some good years, and finally I was like picking up, then COVID. But then even that was a blessing, because after a little bit of COVID, lockdowns and stuff, I was down to like $900, bro. And I said, you know what, I gotta do something. I ended up going to New York, meeting this guy that I was following on Instagram, and we were friendly by then. I ended up going to stay with him. I just wanted to stay a couple of weeks, ended up staying a little longer, a couple months, and it was like a mentor. It was so cool, Babietti. So kind of chilled with him, we became friends, and I learned a lot about business and stuff from him as an artist. Went back to Toronto, ended up getting a gig in Dominican Republic, doing photography and video at a resort that they're building. Stayed there for a few months, came back to Toronto. Now different perspective, I'm working at a cannabis shop, I'm back into music. But then again, life goes up and everything falls down. I have no job, I gotta figure out what to do. I ended up getting a car, started doing Uber. Do Uber for like a year and a half, and it's going amazing. And then prices of gas, I couldn't, like parking and living downtown Toronto, I was broke, I couldn't keep up. Ended up getting evicted, had to move in with my sister. Depression, oh my god. This is last year now. This has been a journey of just up and downs, but I never give up on this shit. Now, line up a job, pretty much almost government job, with TTC as a bus driver, but during the training, this trainer's yelling at me, it started giving me anxiety. Like, I'm like, yo, this is not the job for me. Line up a job for Air Canada, but then I started thinking with my anxiety and stuff, I don't know if being in a tube in the air might be a good idea. And another opportunity in BC kind of showed up, where I could do kind of freelance, and the work that I would do at the land would pay for food and like my rent. So I'm like, that sounds amazing. Load up the car, all the way to BC. I get rerouted just to train somewhere else. And because they're like, oh, the BC site is not ready. Something in my gut told me, like, dude, you gotta get out of here, because it's not gonna happen. I had enough money for gas to get to Vancouver. I get to Vancouver, literally sleep in a Tim Hortons parking lot because I arrived at like midnight. Did find one friend. She's like, yo, you can crash here for maybe like a day or two. But then I thought of somebody else, and I'm like, huh, wait, is Jen in Vancouver? Yo, where are you at? Are you in Toronto or in Vancouver? I'm in Vancouver, where are you at? So I sent her like a screenshot, said Richmond or like Vancouver. She's like, no way, bro. Do you need somewhere to stay? Come stay with me and my fam. And then figure it out. I'm like, all right. So thank the Lord and my friend Jennifer. Now I'm living with her here in Vancouver. And yeah, we're starting over, guys. We're starting over. Back into music. I'm doing more bass covers. You can check that out on my main channel. There's gonna be some films coming here, podcast. It's gonna be probably a joint podcast with Jen. So many things. I know this video is a little bit over the place and you're like, I'm gonna break down some of the experiences of my life, kind of like as a autobiography, but in video form. So we'll make episodes of where we go in depth into those journeys. But with Jen and some of the stuff that I'm gonna be talking here, it's gonna be stuff that we deal with as a human, as an artist, just life. Hydra speaks his mind. That's what the fuck you're watching. If you enjoyed this, like it, subscribe, comment. If you didn't, sorry, I'm just speaking my mind. And yeah, stay tuned for the next video. If you want to watch some of my music stuff, main channel over there. Follow me on Instagram. And if you're in Vancouver and need some photography, video, or music work, reach out.